Last month, the House of Commons Committee on Human Resources, Skills, and Social Development released a report saying Ottawa should improve its understanding of how AI is impacting Canadian workers. And of course, that is a major question today regarding how artificial intelligence is used and whether it will be a tool to enhance employment or hinder it. On one hand, AI can certainly increase efficiency and possibly workplace productivity, but on the other hand, there are some roles that could be entirely replaced by AI. Joining us now to discuss the impact AI is having on the job market is Meagan Gilmore, reporter with Canadian Affairs. Meagan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
In your reporting, you spoke to AI experts. How do you feel AI is impacting jobs?
Sure. So the experts I spoke to were individuals who had already spoken to the committee who put out this report, or in some cases were requested by the committee to speak to them. And they would all say that this cultural fixation on ChatGPT and other open AI type products is really just people directing their attention at the bright new shiny toy of AI and not actually considering what are the more substantial ways that AI could impact work or workplaces. So they would say that according to their research, like numbers from Statistics Canada or the DAIS out of Toronto Metropolitan University indicate that at least a few years ago, Canadian businesses were pretty slow to start adopting AI and integrating it into their regular workplace practices. So right now they would say it's actually really not clear how much AI is impacting Canadians' jobs. And they would say that they haven't seen much evidence of AI completely taking over, if you will, and eliminating certain jobs.
Now, we know that using AI in an ethical way seems to be a priority for Ottawa, but what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And this report doesn't spell out exactly what that means. So there's not a section that says, this is our definition of using AI in an ethical way. The government says that they would like AI to be used in an ethical way, and they give some hints throughout the report of what that could look like. So one of them obviously has to do with privacy. Protecting workers' privacy. And I know that's something that we're going to talk about later. Another one has to do with making sure that workers who come from traditionally marginalized backgrounds aren't there isn't an inherent bias against them in the way that AI systems are programmed or developed. And then there's this broader question of we don't know exactly how, but AI is going to change how workplaces and how people do their jobs. And how do we make sure that human workers are treated fairly and justly during this transition phase?
And in terms of who will use artificial intelligence and who won't, how
Mhm.
exactly does the size of a business impact their likelihood in using AI?
Sure. So the people I spoke to would suggest that the larger the business, the larger the firm, the more likely that it will really be adopting AI and using it in a substantial way. And in the Canadian context, we don't necessarily have a lot of homegrown large businesses, right? It's been a long time since the days of Nortel and Ram were really like the big companies in the Canadian space. So because in Canada we really have more small to medium sized businesses, that could account for one of the reasons for why we haven't seen Canadian businesses like use AI in really big substantial ways.
Can you explain the concerns over using AI in workplace privacy?
Sure. So these are concerns. This is actually really interesting, Teresa, because these concerns are obviously here. Some people would say, though, that the concerns about AI and workers' privacy aren't that different from the concerns of digital, the just general digital workplace practices and workers' privacy. So it's things like data. Where is your data being stored? A lot of data that Canadian workers are inputting is stored in servers that are located in other countries. So who's in charge of that data? What laws apply to it? Um, Anything about a security breach, right? So making sure that data is safe, that type of thing. And then there will have some people will have concerns about if employers are monitoring their employees in excessive ways. So doing things to quote unquote measure the productivity of an employee using AI. How does that impact an employee's privacy? How does that impact the way that we view our workers? That sort of thing. But it is an open question about whether or not these concerns are substantially different from concerns that we just have about digital governance and digital workplace platforms in general.
Meagan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.